Good. How about now?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
Oh, that's my daughter Abigail. She's my IT person.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you. My name is Brian. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for helping.
Thanks.
Hey, Bob.
Hey.
Hey, thanks for giving me some of your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Oh, it kind of cut out a little bit. Can you say that one? Can you say that one more time?
Sure. Absolutely. Glad to do it.
All right. Cool. Well, so I'm just gonna start asking you questions, and I can edit this down, and that's what I've done with some of the other things I've done and people I've talked to. I started this a year ago, because I had a book that came out last year, and because of the times that we're in now, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything really. So I thought I would start some dopey YouTube kind of thing and just talk to people I want to talk to, and hopefully bring a little attention to the project and the people I talk to, and that's pretty much it.
Great.
Basically.
Well, I enjoy talking to you, so I'm happy to answer anything I can.
Okay. Well, the first question I got like literally 30 years of questions to ask you, so it wasn't really that hard to like think about what I wanted to ask, and a lot of it's going to go back to obviously to how I met you, which is by you being the singer for Honor Roll 40 years ago, 30 whatever, long time ago.
Yeah.
But the first thing I was wondering was you obviously didn't grow up in Richmond, and like I do know that you and your brother, and I guess your entire family, I imagine, moved to Richmond from, I want to say Ohio?
Nope, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay, all right. And the reason why I thought maybe it was Ohio was because there was some connection with the Zero Boys. But they're from Indiana too, right?
Yeah, they were my friends. They're from Indianapolis.
Okay, so did you grow up, you basically grew up being around those guys, and obviously I would imagine being influenced by the Zero Boys and their Vicious Circle album, and I bet they were the quite a big deal.
Yes, they were. I mean, let's see. A girl asked my friend and I to go with them to the prom because they really wanted to go to the prom, and we said, no, we're going to go to the art college and see the Zero Boys. So that was the group that we saw all the way through the last couple of years of high school, and they were really good. God, they were good. So if that factored into anything that we did beyond that, then it was just, especially the bass and the drums, just incredible. I mean, Paul was only a year older than I am, so he and I got really, really well.
Right. Well, what brought your? I guess you moved to Richmond because of your family.
Yes, that's exactly why. I stayed in Indianapolis and did a semester and lived with my grandmother, and then I came out to Richmond at Thanksgiving time, and my mother showed me around and showed me VCU, which was where I ended up going to college, and I thought, oh, this is great. There's pretty girls who like punk rock. This is fantastic. I'm absolutely coming here because I already knew the two in Indianapolis that liked it, and while they were friends, they weren't girlfriends. So and the fact that all the music that was going on up and down the coast at the time too, which was true. I mean, my friends and I were going to buy bus tickets to ride from Indianapolis to DC for the week of spring break 82. And I guess they called the Discord house, and whoever answered the phone said, no, there's nothing going on that week. So luckily for me, I'd gone to see Flipper in Chicago with the Zero Boys opening before their album came out, when they actually tried, and fantastic. They were really, really good. I mean, it was just such a disappointment when they came back after the album had come out, and they kind of had already dumbed it down, and it was so disappointing.
Do you mean the Zero Boys or do you mean Flipper?
The Zero Boys were strong until the end. Flipper. Flipper before their album came out, I thought was good, and then after that, I didn't care for them as much, and certainly not the second record.
Right, got it. And back in Indianapolis, I do know about the band that you had with your brother, and I'm not sure if Chip was in it, but is that Battered Youth? You were on the Master Tape Volume 1 album?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
There was a game that was coming up in Indianapolis, and we practiced a bunch, but Jeff Kendall, who was our guitar player, was 14 at the time, so we didn't have a chance in hell of getting a gig in a club. So I talked to Paul, and it was probably Paul and the Zero Boys manager, who was a funny guy, who said, "Hey, if you make the stage, you can play." And we went, "Oh, all right, we'll make the stage, and then we can play." And that has some history too. But it was us, Articles of Faith, Zero Boys, TSOL, Memorial Day weekend, 1982.
Sounds like that's a good show.
Sorry?
That's a good show.
Oh, it was great to see it. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever we had was fine, but it was a good gig. And it was really cool. And then I started to go see bands in Chicago, and then Toxic Reasons made their album down the street from my grandma's house.
Awesome.
Which is where we recorded all the master tape stuff. I didn't even know Paul when they started that stuff, but it ended up being about 8 blocks away from my grandmother's house. And so Paul's girlfriend Joy calls me up and said, "Hey, we're making the Toxic Reasons album over at John's place. You should come by." So I just went in there as just an 18-year-old dumbass who didn't know anything from anything, and just stood there and watched them play. And then they just brought me in, and they were really nice. And I've always had a soft spot for those guys. Always.
Right.
Very derivative of DOA, of course, but still, I enjoyed it. First couple albums were really good.
Yeah. I remember liking Toxic Reasons. What was the record? Independence with the super fancy booklet that came with it. Like, how are these guys able to afford this? This is like really nice. It's not like a Xerox cover or something, It's amazing. But also Chip was in the other band that was on the Master Tape Volume 2, which was, I think they were called Poison Center. They had a song about how they didn't like girls.
I can't vouch for that, but I did hear it.
I have really good.
Listening to that album before it came out with the boombox that I had with Ricky Hicks standing on the street in Richmond for one gig that either COC or No Labels had or whatever. We just stood outside and listened to the whole thing.
The Volume 2? Volume 2?
Yes, Volume 2. Volume 1 was I thought a pretty easy listen. Volume 2 was kind of difficult.
Well, Volume 2 was a double album and all over the place, and it had No Labels, the first band from North Carolina that I heard and fell in love with before COC, and also the Tar Babies were also on that record, who I loved.
Yep, I remember that.
In any phase. But I want to pick on Chip Jones only because I haven't heard that record or that song in years, but it all came back. That song, the Poison Center song about those chicks think they have class with their Calvin Klein jeans up their ass. And they're all like 14 and 15 years old. It's like to write a passage to write a song about how you're scared of girls or whatever. Anyway.
I'm glad I never had one of those.
No, your record, your recorded output is pretty, safe. So you ended up moving to you and your family and your brother, and Chip came later, I guess. Did
Yeah,
Chip move?
he came a year after we did. He came out and checked it out and said, "I want to do this."
Did you have any idea that Chip and you were going to end up joining Penn and Steve? And I mean, obviously you were friends with Penn before you were asked to be the singer of Honor Roll. How did you meet Penn, and what were the events that happened that led, I guess, him to go, "Hey, I don't want to sing anymore. Can you sing for us instead?" What was going on?
Okay, I met Penn the same Thanksgiving weekend that I first came to Richmond, because Steve drove me down there to a friend of ours named Britt Ryle, who had a band called Graven Image, who had a father that let them have a practice room in the basement. So that was the place where people went, and Graven Image played, and Honor played, and it was just something that you saw. There was probably maybe 20 people there, whatever. But Penn was already different. Penn was already a better guitar player with a better sound than the other guys. And Steve picked up on it right away. And he said to me, he said, someday I'm going to play in that guy's band. And I went, all right, good luck to you. Let's see if it happens. And then we were all friends. We all did stuff together. I had a friend named Jeremy who moved down from Washington, D.C. to go to VCU. Jeremy was my bass player. Russ Pohorsky, who was in Death Piggy, was my guitar player. So all we were waiting for was Jeremy to get to Richmond so we could start rehearsing. I think Bobby Huffnell, who was in Unseen Force, was our drummer. He's a wonderful guy too, as they all are. But so that was that. Honor Roll was between bass players. Penn had been saying he didn't want to sing for months. I've been saying that I did. And finally, he just went, well, if we can get a bass player and a singer at the same time, then let's do that. So we did. And then Chip came and saw us, and we had a few really good gigs with Jeremy in the band. And then Jeremy left, and then Chip came in. It's just like that. Jeremy actually went down to El Salvador in 1984 with his loudmouth girlfriend, who almost got them killed trying to help the Sandinistas. But that was then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So I suppose I found that whole strand. For that, I'm sorry.
Right. I have this memory of going with Ricky Hicks, of all people, and Scott Williams to see Articles of Faith in Richmond when I happened to be there that summer. It was before I moved out here, and I saw Honor Roll the first time, and I guess it was after Chip had joined. I think because it was like sometime in the summer of ’85, and I really and I remember. Yeah, it was only, well, you know, it's only what 40 years ago, but but I clearly remember really being impressed, and then never hearing you were playing mostly all the songs that would end up being on the Pretty Song, the first album that Honor Roll did, as like maybe they were being written or whatever. And then I remember moving out to Raleigh in the spring of '86, and I think by that point you guys had recorded demos for the Pretty Song album, like all those songs, and I dubbed a copy the second night I moved there, and as I listened to it, I remembered each song one after another, and I hadn't heard any of the songs for like almost a year, so I knew it made an impression on me. And I think the reason why specifically that happened was because I don't want to say I was just like a kind of kid that listened to nothing but hardcore and heavy metal, but that was my background. So like Honor Roll was like the first personal connection I made to music that was, you say things like well, a band matures or this or that, but it was literally the first band that came from the same background that maybe I was a part of, but actually had real songs. I know that sounds stupid, but really good songs. And also your lyrics, the way you wrote lyrics, there was a strong narrative, and you didn't write stuff that I would be used to hearing, which would be like, the kids are united, and I'm a metal guy, so we're the metal crew, or whatever. Your songs were like these narratives and stories that just, it was a real strong way of writing, and maybe I just wasn't used to that or had any experience in that. So the combination of the band and Penn's guitar playing, of course, and your lyric writing and presence was very, I don't know. Oh, we got cut off. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're back. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Oh, that's okay. But the combination of all that was real powerful, but not like in an overbearing way. It was like, on and over, like the first band that I really connected strongly with. And this is a stupid way to put it, but post-punk. I mean, it was my version of a post-punk experience. And your lyric writing, have you always written in that sort of way? Like, was, because you never wrote sloganeering stuff or whatever. I'm rambling, but I think I think you know what I'm saying. It made a really strong impression, and there was not a lot of people writing the way you wrote. Was there a reason for that, and why you didn't write typical stuff, or was that just a natural?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that maybe, and this is just a maybe, that I was drawn from the stuff that mattered to me before. And while I did like hard rock and heavy metal, I also dug a lot of punk and new wave from a very young age. And I mean, I remember I was 16 when I bought the magazine album, The Correct Use of Soap. I mean, I was into all that shit in high school. So it was only natural that was going to come through as well. I mean, there's a whole, if anybody asked me what I tried to do, I would say, Colin Newman, Paul Weller, Pete Shelley. Mark Smith, I'm not smart enough to do. Ian Curtis bores me. John Lydon writes about himself. A lot of it's just, they're not good, they're not real songs. There was this funny thing in one of the very many books that have been written about Mark Smith of the fall since he died. But he said that John Lydon just labors over stuff that he would throw away. And it was just hysterical. I mean, it was just the difference between the pretender and the real thing.
Right.
So I always liked stuff like the television personalities and really kind of wimpy stuff that was of a different kind of songwriting. I always wanted to not so much stay away from slogans, though I did have that feeling much stronger later. I always just wanted it to be about one person. I always thought it should be about one person,
Oh, really?
And that we, that we and a few of our friends from time to time are part of our lives, and that's great. But you really have to face it alone. And maybe that's a reaction from having gone to Catholic school for 12 years, because I didn't want any of that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's just sort of a rejection of, I don't want that trick where I give you this life and you give me one that I've never seen before and may not have a lot of faith in. I don't want that. So I had all that junk going on in my life until I was like 18. Right. And it was awful. It was awful.
Well, how did you decide what to, did you have like a bunch of stuff that you already had written as far as words and stuff? Did you write for the song, or did you just hear the music and just, well, that sounds like I'll think about this kind of thing, or that kind of thing?
It a lot of times came together in practice, and that was really great. Towards the end, it was difficult to put all the songs together, so I did most of my writing with the rough of the song. But early on, we would just do it in practice, and it was fun like that.
Yeah,
but
great.
the songs the songs that took more labor later on were just as good. So there's that.
Yeah. I remember the song that I think people seem to ask about a lot was Purgatory. Was there like anything going on? I'm sure that's probably your Bob O'Reilly or something, but what do you think that and also I want to point out that when people watch this, that the 5 to 10 people that are gonna watch this, that Honor Roll was never like a really a popular band or a big band, but for the people that liked it, it really resonated. So and I know that song in particular, Purgatory, lyrically, that just predicted the future completely. Like just the mindset of like, you know, you have these strong beliefs about things when you're younger. And then when you get older, you know, it's a matter of holding on to what you actually hold dear and getting rid of all the other junk that really doesn't matter, and you know, that kind of thing. Was there anything going on that inspired Purgatory, or is that just another observation kind of story sort of situation?
I think Purgatory was about me seeing my parents and imagining the things that they thought about, because that's all any of my songs ever were imagining the things that other people thought about. And
Right.
they did them, doesn't mean they feel that way, it doesn't even mean they recognize the moment. But it's what I put in their heads to see if it makes sense to somebody else. I like that one. It was complete teenage angst. I mean, it really was. But it was simple and it was direct and it worked. So it was great. And it was clearly a step aside from what most of the other people around town were doing. So that was cool.
Yeah.
That was
right. And there's never been any personal stuff in your life that ever made it in your lyrics that was disguised. Like you never wrote anything about how you were in any of the. Just making sure.
Yeah. No. I think for the most part, I've lived all of those songs. And there's a certain amount of time in my life that it seemed to draw from.
Right.
That makes, you know, this record of this band and the other band or whatever. But no, I think I've lived every one of them. And you know, if it makes any difference to somebody else, then it was absolutely worth it. It really does. If it makes somebody feel like somebody else felt like I do or somebody else cares, fantastic. That's great. Or if they feel like, you know, they're alone, the character's alone, and it's all right. That's good too. I don't know. I see. I was reading this, the new Mojo actually was talking about this new group called Black Country New Road, and they said they're Britain's best new band. I put a copy of it in the other day, and I thought it was all right. It was all right for aggressive rock, but when magazines like this come out in favor of something, you end up with the Idols or the Fontaines DC. And the Idols I don't care for. And Fontaines I feel been done before. I feel like a lot of the stuff that comes out these days has been done before. But that would be an old man's reaction. So there you
go. Well, I mean, I'm an old man, and that's sort of how I feel too. I can't help it, just because the more music you listen to as life goes on, the less surprised you're possibly going to be. You know, I mean, and that stuff still happens, but it just doesn't happen, obviously, as much as it might have at one point. And it's just, for me, it's just kind of how it is. You know, I still love music as much as I ever did, but I can't help but be more picky these days because, you know, I don't usually get a chance to sit around and talk about articles of faith with anybody in any time, and I don't really go to shows. You know,
okay. Been, all right.
You know,
you came in Richmond, right?
Yeah. What was that?
You came and saw Articles of Faith in Richmond.
Yes.
We hadn't seen them since that gig we did in Indianapolis in '82, where it was Steve and Chip and I with a different guitar player.
Yeah.
And we didn't say anything to them beforehand. And then we started playing, and one by one, they started walking out, like looking at us like, we've seen these people before. I went, yeah, yeah. And then, then we talked to them afterwards. It was all very cool. They were very nice to us.
They were really. I wanted to ask a little bit about the involvement of the late Reed Mullen, because you've said you've said quite a few times that if it wasn't for Reed and his generosity the way he was back then, there's probably no way Honor Roll ever would have made an album or toured or anything. Can you explain a little bit about the connection with Reed Mullen, please?
That's absolutely true. I saw that picture on that you put up a week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, with you and Reed and Ethan, Wayne. Yeah, and it was. I sent a note to Penn about it, and I said, "This is great." And I sent a note to my brother Steve about it actually, because it was the same time certainly that me and Steve had spent enough time down there to get to know you guys at all, and I think it was good. And then there was that COC photograph that I guess was in Toronto, and Mike's messing with the Walkman, and Reed and Woody looked so pissed. And Simon Bob's like looking at from the back going, am I being hunted or not? I can't tell. I don't think I fit here, but I don't know. But
Bob's
a long time ago.
Yeah, Bob's writing a book. He got me to draw something for it, and I'm not really sure what it's about, but I think it might have something to do with being part of the police force at one time. I'm not really quite sure, but I think that'll be kind of. But yeah. So Reed basically, did he like pay for the Pretty Song album to be recorded and manufactured the record?
Absolutely. We were hopeless. We would. Oh yeah, he paid for all of us, and we paid him back some. The record sold well enough. I think he got paid back for the pressing of the record, but he, loaned us money for shirts and this and that, and that's the way it went. Do you think, Brian, the COC is responsible for merchandising of independent rock bands from the 80s onwards to now? I think they're revolutionary that way.
They certainly knew what they were doing, that's for sure. That skull, that they certainly sold a few of those skull shirts.
Wasn't that? It was Reed.
Well, Reed, from what I remember, he was a tireless advocate of stuff that he liked. So if he liked what he did, then he always championed you guys and would tell people over and over, this is the best band in the South by far. And he always was really good at just promoting people that he liked, and he was good at it. And and I'm sure once the T-shirt stuff started to happen, they obviously did pretty well with it. So I'm not sure if they were the biggest band to realize that selling T-shirts could help finance a tour, but they.
I think they did it right first. That's what I think. And what I'm saying is in no way meant a criticism. It was a market that was yet to be explored, and they explored it. Just fine.
Right.
Yeah. Nice guys, and I liked them, and they could do no wrong for me. And they didn't. They did no wrong to me or to us ever. I mean, Woody was always a great guy to be around. Mike was enjoyable. Reed was solid. Simon Bob was there. And I mean, he really did try.
Yeah, he did try. He kind of was joining a band with a different singing approach, and it was probably I think in time he could have made a really solid contribution, but I'm not sure if they let him do what he wanted. I'm not really sure, but but Bob's a really nice guy for sure.
I understand. Now, the guy who was the drummer in the Ugly Americans, the fellow
John.
that had the coffin-shaped track case.
Uh-huh.
He was playing in Shark Quest when Dynamic Truce came down and played with Shark Quest in like 2000 or something, 1998. I don't remember. But anyway, he was just a really nice guy, and he said something really nice to me that I remember. He's just a good guy. And there's loads down there that are good guys. I mean, I always missed Ethan. You know, we like Walter, Wayne, all the rest of them. It was fun. It was second home to us because DC was too much of a hassle. You know what I mean?
Why was DC a hassle? Because of just parking and that kind of thing?
Just traffic in the field. I mean, it was we played a lot in DC and we enjoyed it most of the time tremendously. But the field was, you know, they were here and there. And Richmond was probably over here in the not a hassle, not a big deal. You know what I mean? But DC was a pain. Baltimore with Billy was good. New York, when we did it, was good. We never played City Gardens, but that was that.
Yeah, my impression was when the band was around, and especially when maybe your brother stepped down and Seth came in from that band that seemed to be like Honor Roll Junior that I barely remember. You guys switched drummers, whatever. It seemed like the band always did well in Raleigh. People really liked the band in Raleigh, and from talking to some people in DC really liked Honor Roll. And then maybe there was a few other places, and then you guys ended up going on a tour for the Pretty Song, and that was a massive. That was probably a massive experience and patience. Did anybody? What was touring for the Pretty Song like? In was that 1987, 88? You guys?
No. We toured for the Pretty Song before the album came out, just to ensure nobody would be there. So we went out for a month, August, September of 1986. The record appeared on Halloween. I remember because we brought the records up, well, while we were seeing Bad Brains at New Horizons. And that was a good night. But no, we went out months before the album came out. And we took 3 extra people. 3. Think about that. No money, no food. 3 people who aren't playing, just kind of hanging out going, what the fuck? I mean, Wayne was in charge. It's, you know, it's like being in charge of an hourglass. There's no controlling it. But anyway, it was like being in the army, actually. It was, and I've talked to my sons, and I have 2 sons that were in the army, and it's just kind of like being in the army. Just tough it and see if you can handle it. And we did. We weren't sure we ever wanted to see each other at all when we got back.
I bet.
At all. But we did. And then we went out again with COC on the alternatives and did it again. And that was much better. So that was technically while the first Pretty Song tour. But, you know, we played where people would have us. That's just the way it went.
Right.
We would, you know, COC canceled the tour out on the West Coast, and they said, well, we'll just bring you along on all the East Coast dates. So it was just a bunch of weekends. And we drive up to Boston and play Providence on Sunday night and drive back from Providence all the way to Richmond to go to work the next morning. And it was just, I mean, it was just stupid. We were stupid. We were young and stupid, and a couple of people liked to drive, and that's the way it went. But they were great for us. It was.
Well, the best part about that, you know, like there was a time where no matter how bad something was, if you were doing something like that, it was still exciting and fun just because you were doing something. So it didn't matter. It almost didn't matter how absolutely horrible it was. It was still exciting to be away from home. And that was the,
right. No. If it was if it had been something that we'd done, and I mean we mean me and you, and something we'd done with more money in our pockets, we wouldn't remember it as well. We wouldn't.
That's probably true.
I think it is, because it was, you just were more aware of things. You know what I mean? You weren't comfortable at home. I remember when we went out the first time, we went to this storefront practice space where the Descendants lived in a strip mall in Los Angeles. And they had paper over the windows, and it was like nothing back until 30 feet. And then there were bunks on the walls and the drum set, and they would practice at night when the shops closed. And it just looked like that was roughing it to me. I mean, it paid off for them. And I suppose, well, I don't suppose, I know that Bill and Milo had a better work ethic than I did. I was more interested in keeping my job and my girlfriend. And we all were. Except Penn. Penn was not looking, I mean, he wanted to keep his job. He wanted to keep his social situation the way it was. And we were all just so young. I mean, even the guys at COC, we were all just kids.
Everybody young. That's part of the beauty of it. And especially with what you guys were doing, you were like children making this really good. I mean, I don't know if that's what you guys thought at the time, that, oh, this, what we have here is good. You know, I don't know how self-aware you were, but I'm sure you've heard from, you know, it's probably not thousands of people are looking for you. Hey man, can you tell me stories about Anonymous Cave or whatever? But obviously the music that you guys made was really strong and super ahead of its time. And you guys were like little kids making that music. I mean, for all intents and purposes, which makes it, to me, more powerful. And that's why all these years later, it's why I want to talk to you about that time period. Not so much like, oh, I really wish I can go back to that time. I don't really wish that at all, actually. I'm nostalgic for the music end of it and how simple things were, but I'm not nostalgic for how I thought or what my thought process or any of that stuff. It was just a more innocent time. And in the midst of all that, here's this tremendous, I'm taking over the interview here by giving you props, but it really, you guys were kids, and, it was a really nice combination,
It meant the world to me to do it, and to have people say they enjoy it now is fantastic. I think it's great. I mean, Penn, what did Penn tell me? We spoke on the phone weeks ago, and he said, you never had lyrics that sucked, and that's really important. And I just went, I'll take it.
Well, I mean, like, how many really good lyric writers? I mean, yeah, they were there, but I think I came out of it from a different worldview, I guess, but I still think to this day that you wrote my favorite lyrics from that time period, and to me, and the way it just fit into the rest of the guys was just like, really powerful. So I guess I'm one of those guys that's 40 years on that still thinks very highly of that stuff. It's pretty amazing.
I think it's great. To be remembered at all is great, and I am proud of that. And I regard Penn and Steve and Chip to all be my brothers, because we all are in each other's back pockets all of the time. And that was the way it was then. And no, it was wonderful. It really was. It was really exciting scene to be part of. It was some fantastic people that we met. I mean, it's hard to tell other people how much it meant, because it's like gloating, I'm not a boastful person, I mean, people, sometimes people come up to me and they say this or that, and I say, yeah, and it's nice, anytime. So I'm happy to have made a blip on somebody's consciousness. I like it a lot. But it doesn't mean that it's any more valuable than any of the records that I have already. And I've got thousands of them. And, you know, every single one of them could hold the secret of the universe. So
Sure.
one's as important as the other. One's as important as the other. It doesn't have to have words. It just has to make you feel something or think something.
Yeah. That's a good, well, that's a very good answer. Well, I got a few more questions, and I'll let you go.
No, that's the problem.
Okay, all right. Well, I can't help but wonder about when you're. I like both drummers for Honor Roll quite a bit. They were both big influences for different reasons. Why did your brother decide to quit? And how did Seth come aboard? And what was the name of that band? The two bands that switched drummers. Do you even remember?
Oh yeah, I remember. The band was called Dent. Steve went from playing an honor roll to being mad at me and trying to make up with, oh jeez, I'm gonna get killed over this. Let's not do this. Steve walked out. Penn liked Seth, and he said to me, I was getting on the airport. My girlfriend and I were going to England for a vacation. Yeah, that was 1987. I was actually also going over to meet a couple different labels to see if they wanted to do anything, because by then, Craig Oliver had come out. So even people who were, well, indie industry people in England might have heard it. But then Steve threw it all up in the air by saying he didn't want to be in the band anymore. So I just went to these meetings and said, I don't, you know, we're signing to Homestead, that's it. And so that's what happened. And then Seth came in and he was in Dent, and Steve went to Dent, and Seth came to Honor Roll, and that's where it went from there. I like Seth. Seth's a nice guy. Seth did a pretty good job, I gotta admit. No, I don't have to admit. I'm happy to admit. We were lucky to have him. We're lucky to have him. But there was just something in the way that Steve snapped his wrists when he played that was just like nobody else did. I don't know what it was. It was just the way he played. And the fact that that chemistry of me and Steve and Chip and Penn was perfect in that it meant nobody got what they wanted. Nobody got what they wanted ever. Everybody was stuck on everybody else's toes, and you'd always walk away from every song grumbling because you didn't get this. You know what I mean? You didn't get that. And we knew the groups that we were stealing from, even if nobody else did. And that was, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly why I brought that up, but there's a good deal. I mean, you know what I mean? For me to say Purgatory is this be-all, end-all thing, there's loads of songs that is reminiscent of. Bass part especially. So, oh, and then there's that bit that I borrowed from Atoll Fugard that was in my place. That you have the verse, and then you have the second part, and the second part was lifted entirely from this fantastic book called Tootsie, where it talks about graffiti, you know, being weathered like tears or whatever. I mean, it was so visual, I had to steal it, so I did. And
Well,
it just
stealing's part of it, you know, especially when you steal from stuff that you know nobody's really going to pay any attention to. That's certainly not.
Yeah, but it is affecting is what makes it worthwhile. If it really adds to it, instead of just being some thing that somebody reads by, you know, I mean, it's really hard not to be a brain spotter. You know what I mean? To like throw these influences out just to see if anybody picks them up. I'm not interested in that. But it was just, this passage was just so great. I had to take it, so I did.
You had to take it. Well, I think as a listener and observer, I know what you mean about the differences between the two bands, the version with Steve and the one with Seth. It's no slight on Rictus when I say that I ultimately prefer the Pretty song, because it was a different thing. And I really do like Rictus very much, but Rictus was more meditative and less about songs and more about repetition and hammering something over and over, which is, again, I'm not saying that there's not fantastic songs on it, but for whatever reason, I just felt so tied in with the pretty song and then the entire package of everything. Doug's graphics were great, everything. But that seems to be the difference. And then the meeting ground in the middle is the Craig Olive 7-inch, which is my favorite sounding on a roll record or recording, I guess. That's not really me asking you a question. That's just me making a statement about the differences between. Yeah.
No, what a lot of bands, period, they put their best material on their first album. It's the thing that they've been working on for years before they get a chance to put it down. You know what I mean? As you get better and you get a chance to, if you get a chance to demo these songs, and that's so much better to be able to go, this works, that didn't, this works, that won't. So yeah, first albums are, I don't know if it's just, I don't know if it's just punk and new that are like that, or because I mean, the Beatles and the Stones' first records they were mostly covers, you know what I mean? But groups in the 70s would hit it the first time, and then, groups in the 80s, it became even more necessary, because Husker Du's Land Speed record is awful, okay? Except for Data. It's just a blur to me.
I love that record.
I like Data Control. The rest of it is just a smear to me. But Metal Circus is fantastic because they slowed it down. In a Free Land was a great bridge between the first album and the second record. And we did this song. We played with them like 5 times, I think. And we had this friend of ours named Cliff who would do this funny dance where he'd stick his butt out in the air and dance around. It was funny. At any rate, one time we were playing with Husker Du, and they were in on it, so they knew what was going on. And then we started playing that song, and he got out and did the butt. But the song we were playing was the Husker Du rewrite of the Buzzcocks song Fiction Romance.
Oh.
Off of. Yeah. It's song on Everything Falls Apart.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I never thought of that. I never thought about that before. That was like,
it's a total ripoff, but it's not anything worse for it.
No, but I've never had anybody point that out to me.
But have you heard the Buzzcocks album on Merge?
No.
There's a hysterical song on that Buzzcocks album that Steve Diggle rewrites Hey Jealousy by the Gin Blossoms and just sings different words over it.
Did anybody get that?
No, but it's funny as shit.
Right. Well, my final questions, if you don't mind, would be, so why exactly did Honor Roll break up? I know that Penn and Seth had Butter Glove, and it seemed like they were kind of excited about that. Was that generally what had happened, more or less?
Absolutely. I mean, for a minute, maybe we thought we outgrew each other, but it wasn't the case at all. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they did. I started playing in choral maybe a year later. Schick was playing the Johnson Family 6 months later with Steve. Johnson Family was Steve and Chip with Mark Linkus, Sparkle Horse, and his brother Matt.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of the songs on those first, certainly 2, I'd say 3 Sparkle Horse records are actually Johnson Family songs. And they sound so much better with a rock band backing them up. instead of this scratchy Tom Waits indie kind of thing. God, as a rock band, they were fantastic. They really were. I mean, we used to rehearse in their practice room, and I would just go and watch them, and it was just like watching, I don't know, if you like shit like that, it'd be like watching the Faces play or something. They walked on stage and Mark and Matt looked like rock stars. Chip and Steve looked like doofuses, just like the rest of us. But the other guys looked like rock stars. It was funny.
Right. And I do remember Coral, of course. And then a long time went by, and I think the last band that you were in, I know this is like 20 something years ago, but it was the Dynamic Truths. And then I remember I got you guys to come down and play a show. And to be absolutely honest, I don't remember a whole lot about any aspect of that show. But then when your friend put out all the material from the Dynamic Truths, the album, I remember really liking that album like a whole lot. And I liked all the songs. And I also was impressed with your newfound melodic sense of singing throughout the entire record. And the lyric writing was just, you had that song about the Vietnamese babies where you lifted it from the New York Dolls. But the song I really like that I have to bring up here is that Heading for the Halfway House song, because that really is a strong narrative. And it really tells this, I don't want to say bleak, but it's, it's this kind of quietly intense sort of story. Did anything in the years since Honor Roll, did anything change for you as far as how you approached writing lyrics for music and singing over it? Was it different for the Dynamic Truths in a way that it wasn't for Honor Roll or even Choral?
Yeah, actually, this was a lot of fun. I mean, when Chip was doing it, and my friend Bill was playing the drums, and my friend Dave was playing guitar, and another guy was playing guitar, yeah, it was really good. It was a lot of fun. Everything we did, we wrote in practice. We played some. I enjoyed the time we came down to Cary to play with your band and Ethan's band as well. Was Ethan with your band that night?
No.
Okay,
No.
he was with the other. Okay, but anyway, it was really fun. I mean, Cora was kind of a drag because the band just wasn't very good. Honor Roll was really good, but really stressful if you let it get to you. And sometimes I did, and sometimes I didn't. And I expect it was the same for the rest of the guys.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Kid stuff.
Do you okay, well, I just want to say thanks a lot, Bob. This was a lot of fun. Well, we talked for like almost an hour. So
that's great. If you think you need to later, just call me back.
Okay. Well, the one last question that I guess I got would be obviously all the music making was a long time ago, and I know do you even envision, I mean, like I said earlier before, I don't really sit around and talk to many people about those experiences, which is, I guess, what the internet is for. So it's really nice to have a chance to talk about somebody that did something that meant so much and still does from such a long time ago. And even though it's a way different period of life for, all of us, do you ever envision that ever happening again? Can you ever imagine yourself singing in a band at all ever again? Or is that just like completely,
Oh, no, I'd love to do it. I think it would be a lot of fun to do it. And how about you?
Well, it'd be the same sort of thing. I'm older and, there's a lot more aches and pains and stuff. And I'm trying to take care of myself better. I changed my diet a while ago and starting to lose weight and just trying to be conscious of that because I have a daughter and I want to be around as long as I can, and but as far as playing music, I would love to do it, but it would have to be the right circumstance. And I don't know what that would be. Like something that would be worth making time for because you believed in it that much. That more than just some idea that I have to do it because that was my identity at one time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like for instance, if in 5 years, if Steve and Seth, their arms are broken and there's a chance to play drums in honor roll, I would consider that being a worthwhile thing. But aside from that, I don't know what I would love to do it, but it would just have to be, the right time.
Stars aligned.
Yeah. So keep that in mind 5 years from now.
Thanks, Brian.